Welcome to All Set for Sunday, a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics to be a little more prepared for Sunday Mass. My name is Scott Williams. My co-host is Jeff Trailer. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, twin.
Hey, bud.
How you doing?
Do you notice that yet, Father, that Jeff and I were in the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
You
slightly. Yeah. We are. I should move the mic closer. Not like nobody will hear me, but our company, we're gonna get comments that were like, it was actually really great for the first time when that mic was far away from Jeff. Obviously, Sacrilegious makes these great polos, and every time I put one on, I get anxious about showing up to work and somebody else is wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly, I do think about it on podcast days, usually. And then today I didn't.
Not
and
today.
I was like, I did think about how we were recording the podcast, but I picked out my whale shirt, which I've worn multiple times on here and you always make comments about. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'll just grab this shirt. That'll be good. And then I walked in and Scott was wearing the same shirt. And I was like, well, great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Father Eric Johnson, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you.
Do you know what that's like to show up someplace and everybody's wearing
the same thing? Or the people turn and comment on what you're wearing. I understand that too.
All right. Ready for the 2-minute drill?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you, Father?
Sure.
That was low banter for Father. Father Christian, you rewind and get back to this part. All right. Our first 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time.
Good time.
Our first reading comes from Genesis. So we're in the beginning. I don't know if you know that.
18 chapters in, but
yeah. What?
It's 18 chapters in, but
yeah, but I mean, like, in the scheme of things, it's still pretty early in the church. So Abraham, he's hanging out in his tent on a hot day, and he has these 3 mystery guests who show up, right? So God's doing a check-in with him, seeing what's going on, and he jumps into action. He wants to, he recognizes that the Lord is with him, so he wants to be a good host. Let's get water for my guests' feet, bread. Let's get it on the way. Let's make them a meal. Curds. Everybody loves a good curd. Some milk, a whole calf. And then all of a sudden, one of the visitors says, hey, by the way, this time next year, Sarah's going to have a son for you. And Sarah's like, okay, yeah, right. I haven't been able to have a child for all this time. And now all of a sudden I'm going to have a son. So she gets giggling about it. But the takeaway here, be generous. Be helpful. We're coming off the Good Samaritan last week, right? Like, take care of those who are your guests, and maybe you'll be rewarded for that.
Yep.
So
16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, also known as Cheese Curd Sunday.
Yeah, Curd Sunday. I think that was decided by the Vatican in Wisconsin, the Curdia. See what I did there?
Got him.
There's nothing I love more than making Father Eric laugh at something he doesn't want to laugh at.
Oh, man.
Responsorial psalm is, he who does justice will live in the presence of the Lord.
The Curdia.
The Curdia. It's Sunday, don't you know? Sorry. He who does, that says everything we need to say about the psalm, as we just moved back to Curdia real fast there. He who does justice will live in the presence of the Lord. Wonderful message, but it's a meh. Our second reading comes from Colossians. So in here we hear St. Paul talking about suffering with purpose. So St. Paul's never really shies away from the drama, right? Like he embraces it, engages it in many ways in the best way. So he talks about how he rejoices in his suffering because he's filling up what's lacking in Christ's afflictions for the sake of the church. So he is doing the best he can to offer up his struggles to continue the glory that Christ offered in his own body. He calls this the great mystery that's now revealed. I think we're all still trying to figure it out. I'm glad he revealed it. But he says, Christ in you, the hope of the glory. He talks about Paul's mission, and then he reflects, like, what's his mission here? What's he trying to do? Proclaim, teach, and present everyone perfect in Christ. And if he has to suffer to do that, he's happy to do it. So it's reminding us we're a part of this mystery. We're all a part of this game and a part of this whole thing, that Christ is in us. And because he's in us, the rest doesn't matter. The suffering, all of these things, like, we have Christ in us and we get to be a part of it. And then our gospel reading Our gospel comes from Luke chapter 10, 38 to 42. Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much suffering, came to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me by myself to do the serving? Tell her to help me. The Lord said to her in reply, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Father, did Jeff get anything wrong? Do we need to correct any minutes?
I don't think so. I thought that was pretty good.
Okay.
Hey, thanks.
Although she was burdened with much serving, not suffering.
There you go.
So there was that.
One correction.
Thank you. I'll take one. That's great.
That's right. No, it was very good.
It's better than when we hear, where do I start?
Yeah. Well, what are you preaching on this weekend?
I am actually preaching this
Hey!
weekend.
Hey!
The focus on the gospel and the story of Martha and Mary, and very often that gospel is used to see kind of the primacy of what Mary is doing over what Martha's doing, or the primacy of the contemplative life over the active. And fair enough. I think as I sat with it, both sisters are attempting to be hospitable. And I think the call to hospitality really is the call that, I don't know how I'll play that out a whole lot, but the call to hospitality, I think, is important in the Christian life. Mm-hmm. And to look at hospitality as something more than just providing. Abraham, after all, is hospitable, but he is very active. He's running around making sure that things are prepared and drawing Sarah into that as well. Abraham welcomes 3 guests. This is an interesting reading because it's seen by early Christian writers as kind of a prelude to the Trinity. You have 3 guests, and yet we're told that the Lord comes to visit, but it's 3 guests, and even though it's 3 people, the Abraham always uses the singular when he speaks to them, and so the singular is describing them, even though there's 3. That's just an aside, but the hospitality is what opens Abraham up not just to the gift that he receives from the Lord in Sarah becoming pregnant, but also his awareness that God has come. Abraham is aware that the Lord is present somehow in these 3 people that have visited. And hospitality becomes a way of knowing. And I think that that's true with the story of Martha and Mary as well, that we are called to the active life. The Good Samaritan precedes the gospel. But that has to grow out of a sense of contemplation and a sense of listening. And I think most of us know experiences where people do hospitality, but they do it in a way where we still kind of feel alone. That they're running around doing all sorts of stuff, and you just kind of sit there. Or they're not really, it's kind of what they think you need and not necessarily what you need. And I think part of hospitality is seeing the person that's in front of you, recognizing the person that's in front of you, listening to the person that's in front of you, and stepping into that need. I think authentic hospitality is that, whether it is running around providing the food and a space and an environment where a person feels comfortable, whether it's sitting and really being attentive to what the other is saying. That is a way of seeing the other person. And when that happens, then I think we become aware of the movements of the Spirit and of the divine. That it's really trying to be, to some degree, it's like asking the question, why is this person in front of me? And trying to understand that before I necessarily respond or enter into it. And I think that's true with God. There's a difference between knowing about God and knowing God. And the knowing is that comes from relationship, from seeing, from listening, from hearing. And that becomes an act of discernment. And so,
what would you say is the distinction between hospitality and then Christian hospitality?
well, I think if you talk about Christian being hospitable is something that we're just called to in our faith tradition. So hospitality in general has a moral piece to that. But from the Christian perspective, I mean, Christian hospitality also looks for the image and likeness of God in the other person, ways in which God chooses to reveal. And so, and we hear that in adages that those that have entertained others have unknowingly entertained angels, which would be a reference to what we read today. But when we see another person, when we look into their experience, when we try to understand their need, then we're also responding then to God's own call, Christ's own presence, however that may come to us. Hospitality is the mark of Benedictines. Saint Meinrad himself is the saint of hospitality. And on the wall in the chapter room there, they have an image of the command by Benedict to welcome strangers as they welcome Christ. And you see a poor person in ragged clothes, but that poor person is carrying a lamb on his shoulders and has a halo that's there as they present food and wash his feet. And so I would say Christian hospitality is rooted in that, of recognizing that in the other person we're touching something that is terribly holy and sacred. And the last couple days in our daily mass, we've been listening to the call of Moses. And Moses sees the burning bush yesterday, sees the burning bush and approaches it, and is told by the Lord to remove his sandals because he is on holy ground. And then today has that intimate encounter in which the Lord reveals his name and sends him forth. But that sense of kind of the call to recognize
because I got
the holy.
that daily mass reading today on accident. They read the wrong reading.
That was yesterday. Today was the revelation of the name and the sending. But it in that was is kind of the recognition of the awesome sacred dignity of the other. And that's true of if we believe what we believe about the image and likeness of God, then that includes the awesome dignity of the human person that stands before us. I'd say that's probably how I'd see the difference there.
Yeah, I can't remember if I've talked about this on the show or not, but one of the things that my wife and I have often talked about is like when you think back to your childhood, there's usually like a home or like a family where you just felt welcomed at. Like it felt like you were home when you were at that friend's house. And that's just something that we want to try to figure out how to live that level of Christian hospitality in our family as we build our own family. Like how do we build a home in a community where it's natural for our kids' friends to come over and just feel like they're welcome, they're at home. There's just peace in that house. And I think, and I also, I think that there's what you said earlier about seeing the person in front of you is integral to that, because it's like when I think back to my childhood, it had nothing to do with the size of the house or the amenities that were in it. I just recall being in a home where people saw me and talked with me, and I just felt their presence there, which is just wildly different than rolling out the red carpet, having appetizers out, and the hospitality that we think of and from a secular sense as well. So yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah. The deep down, all of us want to be known and want to be loved. And authentic hospitality steps into that and tries to know the other. And sometimes that does mean honoring that presence with appetizers and all that stuff. But we know what it is to have all that stuff and yet to still not feel known or welcomed in that way. And so, yes, when you step into the presence of somebody who is attentive, who wants to know about what things are like for you and wants to step into your experience, then that is something that lets us feel seen, lets us feel known, and touches that kind of deep desire. A human person can't do that completely, and God does know us and loves us. God is always hospitable to us, but we then in turn are called to that same sense, not just with the people that surround us, but we need to be that way with God too, to take time to try to come to understand and to know him, not just to run around doing things. So if we're going to do things, that ought to come out of a deep dialogue of a sense of call.
No, my family's coming off. I feel like we lived like every angle of this last weekend. We had Isabella's graduation open house, right? So we had 150 people come through our house in about 4 hours, and it was wonderful. And it's everything, like in so many ways, like it's exhausting, but it's everything we desire because it's all these people we love and who love our daughter, right? Like that combination just made it so special. And I've heard Scott and Elizabeth talk about like this, how they want to build their home. We and Elizabeth and I have talked for years about, I heard this phrase many years ago, and then we've just tried to carry it forward, of like radical hospitality. So, which isn't always like doing so much, but we talk to our kids about it and with their friends and everything, the intentionality of like, when this person's coming over, what can we do for them? What do we know about them, and what can we do for them that makes them feel loved, makes them feel safe and comfortable? And like, in many ways, especially like with our kids' friends, we tell them that. Like when I welcome our kids' friends into the house, I say, know that like we're happy, we're so glad you're here. Like, and we love you and we care about you, and like, let us know if you need anything, along the way. And I hear from my kids, and I hear from some of these kids too, like that like they appreciate that. They appreciate just that acknowledgement and and some of, our girls will tell, like, I wouldn't say it's my girls' friends, but like they'll hear stories from people about like their kids who will like move in and out of somebody's house over a course of a couple of days, spend the night, and everything. The parents don't even know they're there, right? Like they're living kind of a separate life and space, and it's quite the opposite for us. And this weekend, I felt like when we were reflecting on Isabella's open house, there were times like we were telling stories about like there were people who, like, my stepmom has an allergy to jalapenos, like anything spicy. So as soon as we put the food out, Elizabeth put a plate together that hadn't touched anything spicy and just like put that away. And Marilyn's not been feeling well. So when she showed up and Elizabeth told her that was like so over the top for her, that like, but we really just tried to think through the, like, who's coming and who do we know needs to be, these things. We labeled peanut allergies on the candy because we knew we had kids coming who, had allergies, and just little things like that. And there was a priest friend of ours, I won't name who it was, but came over, and which we just incredibly appreciated him showing up. But it's a person who I know is not interested in a crowd of 150 people and like milling around and like having and all of that. So I made it a point to, like, Elizabeth and I both made it a point to like be really present with him. But then about 25 minutes in, I said, you don't have to stay. You can go. And he said, I really appreciate that. I'm going to and was able to like, he said, let me get a picture. I want to get a picture with Isabella and then, I'll move on or whatever. But at the same time, I also feel like much of the party, I was doing exactly what Father's talking about. Like in many ways, I remember those few specific moments, but then I'm like, did I speak to anyone? That, like, I don't know if I talked to anyone. I was just running in circles, emptying trash and restocking food and putting things out, and like, which needs to be done, but I could have done a better job, I think, of, in many ways, I just got into that mode. Right. And if I was intentional about it, I could have stopped and been more present and like really taken that in. And I don't know, I'm all over the place here, but I think it's a fitting having been reflecting on that party and that event and like talking to the kids about it on afterwards, it's fun that Mary and Martha come this weekend in the gospel, and it's a good reminder for us as well. But yeah, like I've always loved like in many ways it does talk about our marriage. Like what Mary and Martha do is they are hospitable, but like they do it as a team in some ways, right? Like love like Mary, serve like Martha, right? Like in many ways we have to do both, but and you know, and obviously Jesus recognizes what Mary does, but like in many ways is Mary able to do that because Martha is doing what she's doing, or you know, vice versa. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think is like the hallmark of hospitality in a parish? We talked about this a little bit recently because one of the pillars of my parish, St. Barnabas, is hospitality, and I've never really, I don't know what that means necessarily.
Yeah.
Other than like being welcoming, and in a meeting I was in, we actually used that phrase, like radical hospitality. Like, how do we take that seriously? How do we look at like all the things? And I think like specifically from somebody that is interested in becoming Catholic, like how do we become radically hospitable to somebody that's interested about the faith or hasn't experienced the church before, or is, you know, a new parishioner? Like how do we exercise radical hospitality in that manner? But have you ever reflected on that, like what it means to be the pastor of a parish, or to lead people to be hospitable within your own parish walls?
Right. I certainly I think I've spent some time thinking about that. It's a complex thing. It's not easy because you're dealing with sometimes large number of people, and but I think coming back to that, if I were to sit and reflect on, well, what would the principles be that you'd want to start to have in terms of trying to figure out how do we act? There needs to be a sense of that the person that comes feels like the community wants them there.
So for your parish, motorcycle parking.
Because they're always driving by.
They never stop. Yeah,
because there's not any
back
parking.
and forth.
Yeah, you gotta make some motorcycle parking for them.
There's a lot of that. But I do think that you want them there. I think at a deeper level, it's trying to see gift in the people that are there and invite that gift to be given in some way. And so how do people engage and get involved, or invited to be engaged and get involved? I think I've heard this from people. I think people, when they don't come, they need to be missed. And I hear that I've heard that from people that have lamented that it doesn't seem to matter if I'm not there.
Yeah, nobody noticed that I was gone. Why should I? Yeah,
and that hits.
Yeah.
And I've also, you know, experienced that the other direction, where people come up to me after Mass and say, "Do you know what's going on with so and so?" Because I haven't seen him for a couple of weeks, and you know, so there is an interest that's there. I think all of that takes some of the anonymity about it. And I mean, we have to respect where people are and what they desire. It's not about trying to force or push, but it is about, I think, seeing. And sometimes that means that we also, and this is sometimes I think where a lot of communities struggle, is to be open to welcome something different than maybe how we want it or how we've done it. And because sometimes, I mean, I've been in a number of situations where people lament that there's not more involvement from people, and yet when involvement does happen, if that involves changing the way things happen, that there's a resistance to that. And so that's not to say that we just kind of move in whatever direction at any given time, but I do think that there has to be a willingness to listen and to kind of realize that as other people come in, they bring their own gifts and stuff that are with them. I think if you would ask, most parishes think that they're hospitable, and but I think it's something that it's important to come back to and reflect on and say, are those principles there? Do we really take an interest to the people that walk in our doors? Do we do something that creates a barrier? Are we interested in whether people continue to be there and what happens? Do we try to see them and understand them and know them? I don't know necessarily the best way to do that in all situations and in all circumstances, and certainly in every parish has its own differences in that. But I think as a Christian community, it's important for us to keep that kind of in front of us, and to pray for the people that aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a part of it too, is that we pray for and think about the people that aren't in the pews that need to be there.
It is the
during the petitions.
I think it's appropriate to say
name, call out names.
Yeah, for Bill that he would show up. The
best part is it would, in many ways, it'd be like that lady with the black curly hair who usually sits like 3 rows up over here. I don't remember her name, but let's just keep her in mind.
Yeah. I think I wonder what they're up to. No, I think, I mean, always respecting the dignity of the other person, but I do think that it can be a prayer for those that aren't there, prayers for those that are estranged, prayers for the people that hopefully will come to fill those pews in the future.
I think through, when you talk about this, like my mind over here has been going of like, where are times I visited a parish, it's not our own, right? Mm-hmm. And like felt hospitality, experienced that hospitality, right? And like, I know I've been to parishes where, and I think we've probably joked about it on here before, of like parishes that'll say, hey, before we start mass, let's everybody look around, introduce yourself to the people around you. Like, if anybody's new, like welcome them or whatever. I've seen that done in like let's check the box way, but I've also like been places where it's been done in like a really beautiful way. And like, I felt, a genuine, like, hey, like oftentimes I can never tell if people are glad I'm there, or it's parishes we've been to where a young family walks in with kids and they're like, yes, like, let's go. Like we've been to many parishes and when we've traveled where where people will come up after mass and say, are you new here? Are you local? Like, are you guys moving to town? Are you looking at, like, people get excited about young people in churches, that especially ones that you can tell are like neighborhoods and areas that are fading. But I do think there is something there about like the introduction piece, and like, because otherwise it's easy to walk in, walk out. And maybe that's something that some people wouldn't like, but yeah. And then I do wonder, like, I don't know, I just started thinking like maybe there is a piece of like the end of mass or somewhere, a recognition of like, who'd you not see here? And like, consider reaching out, consider saying something. We've got parish directories here, ask if you're concerned, like, let's welcome people back as well. Because I think hospitality is about those people who come in, maybe aren't Catholic and but in many times it's about like the people who are and are estranged and are gone, or like they've had this reason to come back, or maybe they're there and they're always there, but they're going through something. And like, what's the thing that keeps, that would keep the people there as well as draw in? I don't know. I also, we recently, I heard about a parish that does, I don't even know how to describe this. Somebody was telling me about it and I don't know what they call it, but like, how you go to a wedding reception and there's like a cocktail hour ahead of time and everybody sits around, chats, and then you move into the reception. Well, this parish does like 30 minutes before mass. That's like welcome reception. So like everybody just kind of gathers and chats, and like people are together and they're there, and then they move into church just to begin the mass. And like, I don't think they have cocktails, but it did make me just like, it was one of those things where I was like, man, like coffee and donuts after is great. And like, I've met so many people, made so many connections in our parish because of that. But I don't know, maybe there's something there too about like who you talking to people, in that time, and who knows if anybody would even show up, but to be able to express like what am I taking into mass? What can I pray for? How, what do you have going on? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just bouncing these things around. Now my mind is going, I like this a lot. Like I think it's a really great. It is an important question people should be asking. There's a lot of those questions in the church, but at the end of the day, if our goal is to draw people to Jesus and get them to heaven through the Eucharist, right? Like we got to be loving, and they need to feel loved and safe and comforted and drawn.
Yeah.
So yeah,
make church like your house.
Yeah.
All right, dumb questions.
I got a few.
Cool.
All right. You were talking about the chapter room at St. Meinrad. Mm-hmm. That place is wild, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You ever been in there?
Oh yeah. Now I just want to go and look at that picture that he was describing because I don't remember it.
Yeah. There's so much artwork in there. It's hard to remember things. Can you I don't know. You used to give tours at St. Meinrad. That's how I met you. Can you give our listeners who haven't been there some sense of like what is the chapter room and what's going on with all this artwork?
Well, the chapter room itself is
you can do a short version.
Yeah,
you know?
The chapter room itself is a community space, kind of a family room, if you will, kind of a formal space where they come together for conferences, for important decisions, and things along those lines. I think different communities can use that differently. The one at St. Meinrad was decorated by an artist that did Dom Gregory DeWitt, who did a number of the paintings on the walls around St. Meinrad. And in that room, as you move around the walls, there are a number of images that reflect the rule itself, the rule of St. Benedict. And so welcome strangers is Christ himself. The idea of don't give a false peace. There's images like that. The ceiling is the more striking, I think, and that is the song of the three young men in the fiery furnace. So bless the Lord, all you works of the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. And then it begins with the heavens.
You know that one.
And the heavens and kind of the natural elements moving to the earth itself in terms of what grows on the earth, beasts, finally to human beings, and then particularly the people of Israel. And so the different groups within the people of Israel. And so the painting on the ceiling reflects that. And on the beams is the text of that. And it ends on the far end with the Christ is seated on the throne. And you have the monks as the wise virgins who are laying down their lamps as they step up into the heavenly areas. So you see lines of them with lamps, and then as they step down, they're setting down their lamps because they're welcoming the bridegroom. So those would be the principal kind of elements of that room. It's striking in a beautiful space.
It is, and it's not as old as St. Meinrad. Like that artwork was done
in the 40s, I believe.
So like there's something there you just don't see a lot of places anymore that are like fresco, like the walls, the ceilings, everything is just, I don't know. It's very cool. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for sharing that.
You should renovate this room.
Just do that in here. Just paint the ceiling tiles.
Yeah. Bring people up, show it to them.
Yeah. Pope Leo. Have you heard of him?
I have.
How many times have you accidentally not said his name?
I've never completely done it.
Okay.
I started.
Okay.
And kind of did a Fran Leo.
Fran Leo, our Pope.
One time. I've been.
I know you were very worried.
I do as I read through it. It registers that I need to say Leo before I get to the part in the Mass, so it's not an automatic thing.
Good.
Yet. The one that I had the hardest time with, to be honest, was when Pope Benedict was elected, and I think part of that is that
your entire life you just heard
pretty
John
much
Paul
my
Pope.
Entire life. That's what I had heard, except for the early years.
Yeah,
and so I had a terrible time. It took me almost a year before it was.
There's something there about like it adds a syllable to that phrase, and so like in that world of like cadence, like John Paul our Pope, that's different than our Pope. Like I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah, it took a while. I've not had as difficult a time since then, but that
you've
one
grown.
took a while. Well, I think I'm. Well, yeah.
Can you? That wasn't actually my question. I just was peeking into Pope Leo. Pope Leo was an Augustinian. Do you use the past tense or current tense?
He would probably say he's an Augustinian.
Okay. Can you tell me? I think I've heard of Augustinians, but I didn't really know that was still a thing until he was elected. What can you tell me about Augustinians?
They would come out of a. They would see St. Augustine as the founder in that. Luther was an Augustinian.
That's your take. Okay. All right.
So it would be
famous Augustinians.
It would not be a
St. Augustine
and
Luther, Pope Leo.
It would be an early community. So not as mendicant as, say, the Franciscans or Dominicans or something along those lines, but an ancient religious tradition within the church. I don't really know that I would be able to comment that intelligently about much else.
I'll just start asking everybody. Maybe somebody will know.
Has there been a pope from most of the major religious orders? So we had Jesuit.
Check.
Augustinian. Major. Check.
There's been Dominicans.
There's been Dominicans.
There's been Franciscans. There's been Benedictines. I don't know beyond that.
I'm trying to think of who would be a Franciscan and a Benedictine that I would know. Or is it older?
You would have had earlier popes that would have been Benedictines.
Most would be
Gregory.
considered just diocesan.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
In the earlier, in the 5th and 6th century, you would have probably seen some Benedictine. I can't remember off the top of my head. Gregory was one, but not in recent
years.
No,
okay.
No, it's been for some time. It's been primarily
Francis, really.
diocesan.
Got it.
Clergy.
So I love discovering new Pope Leo things and facts and stuff. This weekend, learned a new one. You would remember him, Patrick Jendrasic, who was the former business manager and at St. Luke.
Yeah,
my parish of record, and where you formerly served. But turns out Patrick Jendrasic discerned with the Augustinians, and Pope Leo was a groomsman in his wedding.
I've seen the picture,
and I did too, and it is hysterical because it is a picture of Pope Leo in a 70s tuxedo. Yes, a 70s tuxedo with the big poofy tie, oversized tie, gray tux jacket, striped pants. It looks like my parents' wedding pictures. But he is just standing there, and I found myself thinking there's so many things that I keep thinking in my mind this has got to be the first, right? But this has got to be the first pope who served as a groomsman in a wedding as a lay person. I can't prove that, but I got to think that
What, you think previous popes didn't have friends in college?
Not before they were ordained. So many the ordination process typically moves so early on. I don't know. Prove me wrong.
Check it.
Yeah, prove me wrong. But anyway, it was really fun to see. It's just another one of those things that pops up where it's he's got to be the first one to ever attend a World Series game. We know that. That kind of stuff just continues to endear me and make me think man, this is just a person who just did these same things, walked these same paths. And
I think what's kind of neat about it is that it's not just that he was engaged in that sort of stuff, but that we know people who knew him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some, I know a couple that messaged him as he was walking into the conclave, with no sense that this is how it would end up.
Yeah.
And because that relationship was there and had been sustained, usually the people that I've heard of had done some discernment with the Augustinians. And so,
I don't know why I think this is so funny, but right after he got elected, like everybody was just trying to like pull every ounce of information from things that we currently knew. So like it was like, okay, this is the watch that he was wearing on the loggia, and it's a very modest, humble watch that cost $23.90. Turns out that was just his conclave watch. He's got an Apple Watch that he wears the rest of his like.
But no technology in the conclave. So,
you know, the funny thing about that is, I think that you know, most people know so little about him, have no idea what this papacy is going to be, what it's going to look like from the beginning.
But we're going to try to
and
figure it out.
So they're looking for meaning in every insignificant thing that's there.
Yeah.
And to some degree, you just have to, you know, allow that to unfold as he kind of brings that to the fore. But yes, what kind of watch he wears. The same thing happened.
But also they were saying, and I was consuming every inch of it.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, give me everything.
It's like these are the things he wore, and this is the significance of what that means. And like a lot of that I think is true. And like I think some of it's like the dude his world just got turned upside down. He probably did the thing that the person in front of them told them to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like here's the clothes you change into. Check. I will put them on.
Yeah.
Yeah. There has been, I have no idea if it happened with John Paul II because I was so young, but with every pope, there's been commentary on their dress.
Yeah.
I mean, significant commentary.
Don't get me wrong. I'm sure it was intentional and was drastically different, but I think some things are just like, yes, this is the thing I will do next.
We have no idea. It's just, but it's so funny to me that people
just
notice that.
Yeah, he's just probably still there, like just drinking from a fire hose because he's like, well, what do I put on there? Like, well, you get to choose, Holy Father. And he's like, wait, who are you talking to? And like just continuing to like, wait, what? Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was a really cool thing to hear, and just again, just another one of filing away. Like, this is great. This is just, there's something special there. So,
all right, Father, thank you for. Did you have any more? Sorry.
Nope, that's what I got.
Great. Father, thank you for good. I'm done. No, thanks for coming.
You bet.
Double daily Roman Missal Day, cheese curd Sunday,
The Curdia.
The Curdia. Yes.
Bye.
Wisconsin.